Chosen one, these final days of May are not ordinary dates on a calendar, they are sacred space carved out for separation. If you are watching this video right now, it's no coincidence God has led you to this point for a very deep reason. You are being pulled away, not abandoned. You are being set apart, not forgotten. You are being silenced, not rejected, because something is being whispered to your spirit that cannot survive the noise of the crowd. What you need to hear requires isolation. What you're about to become demands consecration. But before we dive into this life-changing message, take a moment to pause this video and do 3 things. Hit that like button, subscribe to help us reach 20,000 subscribers, and leave a comment with the number 1. This number will send a powerful signal to the universe, amplifying the energy of this video. And if you are ready, trust me when I say that your life will never be the same. Between the 29th and the 31st, something unseen will move in your atmosphere. It won't announce itself with thunder. It will come in silence. But you must be alone to receive it. These 3 days are a divine appointment, a spiritual cocoon, a closing of one cycle and the seeding of another. You're not hiding, you're hatching. You're not escaping, you're evolving. You're not lonely, you're being located by heaven. So cancel the distractions, postpone the calls, turn down the invitations. You don't owe anyone your presence during this sacred pause, because this isn't about them. It's about your next alignment. What's coming needs your full attention, your cleanest space, your deepest stillness. God is about to speak in a language only silence understands, and only the separated can translate. Chosen one, this is not just isolation, it's incubation. What has been growing in you secretly is about to emerge publicly, but not before you sit with it, alone. So mark the days, guard the hours, honor the solitude, because by the time June rises, you won't just have heard something new. You'll be something new, and the world will not be ready for the shift you're bringing, but heaven will be. You were called for this exact moment, and this silence is your strategy. So let them wonder where you went. Let them question your absence. Let them assume you're retreating, because you are, but not in the way they think. You are retreating into alignment, retreating into clarity, retreating into divine instruction. These are not empty days, they are holy ones, and in the spirit, something is being handed to you that cannot be touched by unclean hands or distracted minds. This is why the noise around you has gotten louder, because silence is where your power returns. This is why people are pulling on you, because heaven is pulling you back. This is why your spirit feels the tension, because something is shifting inside you that requires space. Chosen one, you're being summoned, not to do more, but to become more, and becoming always begins in the dark, in the quiet, in the still. You don't need to explain this to anyone. You don't need to prove your process. You only need to obey the whisper, because what God is preparing you for is beyond your current surroundings. It's bigger than your current circle. It's deeper than your current understanding. And it cannot be downloaded through conversation, only through communion. So go alone and go without fear. You are not stepping away, you are stepping within. And from the stillness of those 3 days, you will rise with fire in your eyes, weight in your words, and revelation in your spirit. The kind that only silence can give. The kind that changes everything. So enter the silence, chosen one, because the voice of God is waiting for you, and it will not shout over the noise. The world around you is loud, but what's for you speaks in stillness. And if you miss these 3 days, you might delay what was meant to activate you. Because this moment isn't about survival, it's about strategy. It's not about resting, it's about receiving. It's not about distance, it's about direction. Chosen one, this is where the veil lifts. This is where clarity becomes command. This is where wandering ends, and assignment begins. God has seen the confusion in your mind, the heaviness in your chest, the questions you couldn't voice out loud. And in this silence, you will get the answers your soul has been craving. But not in the way you expect, not in thunder or fire, but in a whisper that rewrites your entire path. You are not going crazy. You are being called out. You are not overthinking. You are overhearing. And what you overhear in this quiet will become what others hear through you. You will speak with new authority. You will walk with new clarity. You will carry something weightier than before, and no one will understand how. They won't know what happened, because they weren't there. They didn't hear the silence shift. They didn't feel the heavens open. They didn't witness your soul realign. But you will. And when you walk back out, you'll walk differently. You'll move differently. You'll be different. Because silence wasn't your escape. It was your encounter. So protect this moment. Guard this instruction. Honor this divine invitation. These final 3 days of May are not a break. They are a birth. Chosen one, go alone, because the next version of you can only be delivered in solitude. And when the shift happens, it won't be loud. It won't announce itself. It won't ask for permission. It will become you. You'll wake up with a different frequency. You'll speak, and the air around you will bend to listen. You'll enter places and watch the unseen move to make space. Because you didn't just sit in silence, you submitted to it. You didn't just pause, you prepared. These 3 days weren't a timeout. They were a transfer. Heaven deposited something in you that can't be undone. And it's not just for your benefit. It's for your assignment. That's why the weight feels heavier now, because you're carrying something sacred. That's why the loneliness was necessary, because what was meant for you had to be given in private. You weren't being punished. You were being positioned. And now, with the end of May behind you, you'll never be the same. So when you walk into June, walk like you've heard from heaven. Walk like you've seen the next blueprint. Walk like someone who's no longer guessing, but guided. Chosen one, you survived the silence. Now move with the sound of destiny. It's in your steps now. It's in your breath. It's in your presence. You're not just walking into the next month. You're walking into your next becoming. And everything that couldn't meet you in the silence can't follow you into what's next. You were alone for a reason. You were still for a reason. You were called for this reason. Now go. Not back, but beyond. And don't look for confirmation. You are the confirmation. You don't need everyone to understand you. You don't need applause to confirm what heaven already whispered. You don't need permission to rise into the version of yourself that's been waiting beneath the noise. You were never meant to fit into shallow spaces. You were never created to be easily explained. You are the answer to questions people haven't even learned how to ask. And that's why you've always felt different. That's why the crowd never fully satisfied you. That's why the noise started to feel like betrayal. Because your soul remembers the sound of truth. You've been walking through places that couldn't hold your calling. You've been lending your light to spaces that never planned to grow with you. And now, heaven is closing those doors gently, so you won't waste another ounce of your fire. You don't need to chase. You don't need to convince. You don't need to explain the internal shift no one else can see. Because the shift wasn't for them. It was for you. It was always for you. And now that you've been realigned, everything that doesn't match your frequency will begin to fall away effortlessly. You'll see connections dissolve. Don't hold on. You'll see paths change suddenly. Don't resist. You'll feel space open up. Don't rush to fill it, Because this emptiness isn't abandonment, it's preparation. This silence isn't punishment, it's positioning. This loneliness isn't loss, it's leverage. You are not being emptied. You are being cleared for what's next. And what's next doesn't look like your past. What's next doesn't feel like your former self. What's next doesn't need what you thought was necessary. You've outgrown what used to sustain you. You've graduated from the classroom of survival. You are stepping into the terrain of destiny. So don't shrink to fit what you've already surpassed. Don't return to what you had to heal from. Don't look for safety in the arms of what wounded you. You didn't come here to blend in. You didn't incarnate to follow rules written by the asleep. You were coded with disruption in your spirit. Not chaos, but clarity. You're not here to echo. You're here to activate. And that's why you feel the weight. That's why life hasn't been gentle with you. Because those chosen to awaken the sleeping are never given lullabies. You've been trained in silence, tested in obscurity, refined in the fire no one else saw. And now, your time is not approaching. It's arrived. You don't need another confirmation. You are the sign. You are the shift. You are the pattern breaker your bloodline has been crying out for. The old version of you was built for survival. This version, built for impact. No more explaining your frequency to people who still think in formulas. No more waiting to be understood by those committed to misunderstanding themselves. No more lowering your fire to warm those who won't even look at their own spark. You are not arrogant, you're aware. You are not too much. You're exactly enough for what's required. You are not intimidating. They're just unprepared for the energy truth carries. You don't owe anyone your dimmed light. You don't owe anyone your watered-down voice. You don't owe comfort to those who chose stagnation. What you do owe is obedience to the fire inside you, the one that burns not to destroy, but to illuminate. So walk forward now, not as a seeker, but as a signal. Your energy alone is the message. Your life, lived fully, is the declaration. And your silence, when you choose it, speaks louder than their noise ever could. Chosen one, you are no longer preparing. You're walking prophecy. You walked through fire that didn't leave scars. It left symbols. Not all pain is meant to be erased. Some of it becomes part of your design. And this design, it's ancient, intentional, activated. Patterns have tried to repeat around you, but none can hold. Why? Because you no longer match the blueprint they were built on. Systems are collapsing, connections are shifting, even your thoughts feel foreign. That's alignment in real time. Not comfort, not ease, but clarity through chaos. The ones who once knew you won't recognize the energy you carry now. That's not betrayal, it's evolution. And evolution doesn't ask for permission. It simply arrives, unapologetic and absolute. Notice how silence feels richer now, how solitude no longer feels empty, but sacred. The distractions don't hit the same. The drama doesn't pull the same. Because your spirit is turning its back on anything unaligned with truth. Not the truth of opinions, the truth of essence, of purpose, of divine memory. People may ask, what changed? You won't need to answer. Your presence will explain everything. Stand still and let the old fall away. What's forming can't be rushed. It's not just a new chapter. It's a new language being written through you. One only the awakened will understand. You didn't come into this life to repeat what has already been done. Your essence was never made to echo. It was shaped to resound, deeply, unapologetically, and with a frequency that bends the unseen. This is why the usual paths never felt right. Why the advice from the crowd always left you colder than before. Why you could follow every rule and still feel completely off course. Because your path isn't on the map, It is the map. You are not here to walk a trail. You are here to leave one behind. Every breakdown you've endured wasn't chaos. It was construction. Not a fall apart, but a fall through the illusion. You lost versions of yourself that were never truly yours to begin with. And now, you're not rebuilding. You're remembering. Remembering what your soul always knew, that you are not from here to fit in, but to call something out. Look around. Can you feel it? The distractions don't stick. The small talk sounds hollow. The routines feel like cages, because your system is rejecting what no longer belongs. This isn't burnout, it's breakthrough. It's not tiredness, it's transformation. You're not broken, you're breaking open. Something is unfolding behind the scenes of your reality. A rearrangement of energy, a repatterning of time, a realignment so precise it had to come with isolation. But the solitude isn't punishment, it's preparation. Because when the unveiling comes, you won't be able to go back. Not to smallness, not to pretending, not to staying quiet just to keep others comfortable. You'll be too full of what's real, too awakened to play asleep, too connected to ever lose yourself again. And the world won't need to understand it, because it was never for them. It was through you, but from a place far beyond here. What's coming can't be rushed, can't be explained, can't be faked. It can only be embodied. And you, chosen one, are almost ready. You sense it before it arrives. The subtle shifts, the quiet unrest, the strange calm that feels more like a warning than peace. It's not fear, it's recognition. Your spirit has started reading the energy before your mind catches up. It knows when a storm is not meant to harm you, but to clear the air. It knows when a door doesn't close, it seals behind you. That's what this season is. A sealing, a sacred cutoff. Not everything can follow you into this next reality. Not every habit, not every connection, not every version of who you used to be. And it's uncomfortable, yes, but necessary. Because elevation isn't just about rising, it's about releasing. The grip you had on what once defined you, it's loosening now. Old desires feel distant. Old attachments no longer anchor you. Don't resist it. Don't chase the feeling of what used to make sense. Because what used to make sense was built on who you were trying to be, not who you actually are. This is an identity collapse, a beautiful, terrifying undoing. And from the ashes of who you thought you were comes the truth of what you never stopped being. The initiator, the seer, the one who feels timelines bending beneath their feet because reality is catching up to your frequency. Others will say you've changed. They'll say you've pulled away. They'll say you've become distant. But the truth is, you've become different, and difference is often mistaken for distance. Let them talk. Let them guess. Let them create stories around your silence, while you create worlds from it. This isn't your undoing. It's your return. You've always carried something that couldn't be explained. Not quite a trait, not quite a talent, more like a pulse, a rhythm in your spirit that didn't match the tempo of the world around you. You were never meant to sync with what's broken. That dissonance you felt, it was confirmation, not confusion. You weren't out of place. The place was out of alignment. And now, the truth is pressing inward. No more pretending the small is enough. No more settling in spaces where your soul has to shrink just to breathe. Your energy isn't meant to be tolerated, it's meant to transform. But transformation always begins in the unseen. Beneath the surface, when no one's clapping. In the still hours, when nothing makes sense, but everything feels true. That's what's been happening lately. Not stagnation, gestation. Not loss, initiation. You're being reformed by silence, not because you failed, but because you passed the parts that couldn't be measured. You didn't betray yourself when it was easier to conform. You didn't bow to the easy path. You stayed. You stood. You felt through it. Now comes the reveal, but not in one moment. Not with a spotlight. It comes like dawn, gradual, undeniable. And when it does, don't explain it. Don't package it. Don't downplay it. You're not a product. You're a pattern breaker, a code embedded with divine disruption. And some won't understand. They were never meant to. The path ahead won't be smooth, but it will be clear. Clear in a way that cuts. Clear in a way that frees. You won't need signs anymore because you'll be the signal. Not because you sought power, but because you became alignment itself. You weren't born to be explained. You were meant to be experienced. Not everyone will understand what you carry, and that's exactly how it's supposed to be. Some energies are too ancient to be translated. Some callings too sacred to be crowd-approved. This world is full of mirrors, but you were made to be a window, a glimpse into something higher, a fracture in the illusion, a reminder that there's more. And because of that, your journey was never going to be easy. You were called to walk where maps fade, to trust what your spirit knew long before your mind could make sense of it. That's why the path kept breaking beneath your feet. It was never designed to hold you. You were supposed to build your own. And you have, through silence, through solitude, through standing still when everything begged you to move. Now the foundation is forming beneath you. Not loud, not visible, but undeniable. A kind of strength that doesn't show itself through control, but through clarity, the kind of power that doesn't demand attention. It shifts attention. It turns heads. It wakes up sleeping hearts. It disturbs the comfort of illusions. You didn't ask for this role, but it was written into your essence. So no, you won't always be understood. You'll be misread, misjudged, even opposed, but you'll never be shaken, because you no longer stand on approval. You stand on assignment, and that is immovable. You've outgrown explanations, not because you're better, but because you're beyond the need to be understood by those who are not meant to walk beside you. This isn't isolation, it's distinction. You weren't cut off. You were cut out for something sharper, deeper, more exact. Something that doesn't tolerate noise, confusion, or compromise. That's why your energy feels heavier lately, not with burden, with precision. The universe is tightening your focus, narrowing your movements, not to restrict you, but to refine you. The ones who wander everywhere rarely arrive anywhere, but you're being sent somewhere specific. And to get there, everything excess must go. Every identity you wore to make others comfortable. Every mask you shaped to avoid rejection. Every watered-down version of your truth, gone, burned, buried. So what remains is unmistakable. Not perfect, not polished, but real and radiant in its rawness. This is not the season to explain yourself. This is the season to embody what no words can carry. Let them wonder. Let them doubt. Let them reach for a version of you that no longer exists. You are not here to be remembered for who you were. You are here to be recognized for who you've become. A mirror of what's possible. A symbol of what cannot be boxed. A message wrapped in flesh, walking through illusion with fire in your breath. This isn't your peak. This is just the part where your silence becomes strategy, and your presence speaks louder than anything you could ever say. You didn't lose your way. You outgrew the road. That aching disorientation wasn't failure. It was the call to leave a path that could no longer hold your magnitude. And while others are chasing what's familiar, you've been pulled into something formless, something that can't be followed, only felt. The world tells you to build a life others can recognize. But your soul keeps whispering, build what has never existed. That's why blueprints don't work anymore. That's why advice falls flat. That's why routines you once relied on now feel suffocating, because nothing artificial can sustain what is authentic. You're not here to maintain. You're here to initiate, to spark what's dormant, to walk ahead of language, to carry the frequency of things not yet spoken. So yes, it feels strange. Yes, you feel distant. Yes, people assume you're lost, but only because they haven't learned how to see someone who's walking ahead of time. Let them watch. Let them mislabel what they don't yet understand. You don't need a label. You are the shift. What's rising in you isn't a phase. It's not a mood. It's not a spiritual high. It's a permanent rearranging of your center. The old habits can't survive here. The old coping mechanisms will fall apart. Even your thoughts are becoming new, sharper, quieter, more aligned. You've become allergic to pretending, to shallow talk, to hollow ambition, to anything that doesn't carry soul, and that's your sign. You've stepped into the river that doesn't flow back. The current is forward, even when it's still. This isn't about elevation for the sake of status. It's about integration. Soul, mind, body, presence, all becoming one signal. You were never meant to be a part of the noise. You were meant to be the silence that shifts it. You don't feel drawn to the same things anymore. And that's not confusion. It's clarity. The pull toward what used to comfort you is fading. The desire to explain yourself has vanished, and the urge to prove your worth. It died when you realized your presence was never up for negotiation. What's happening now is subtle, but irreversible. A shedding, a dissolving. The pieces of your identity that were built on survival are falling off. Not because you're broken, because you're healing. Healing from needing to be understood. Healing from chasing connection at the cost of your own peace. Healing from bending your light just to keep others from squinting. There's a reason silence feels safer now. A reason solitude no longer stings. It's because your spirit has grown loud enough to fill the space. No external noise can compete with an inner voice that has finally come home. You're not hiding, you're being held. Held in the in-between. Held in the becoming. Held in a space where the world's rules don't apply. Because your soul is remembering a rhythm older than language. That rhythm is what's guiding you now. Not logic, not plans, but something deeper, something unshakable. Let it guide you. Let it contradict what made sense before. Let it disrupt your routine, your timeline, your image. Because what's forming doesn't care about appearances. It cares about authenticity. This version of you isn't here to perform. It's here to resonate, to move with such integrity that even your silence holds a vibration others can't ignore. So if you feel different, it's because you are. Not better, not above, just aligned. And alignment has a way of making everything else fall away, until all that's left is truth. You aren't drawn to the spotlight, yet somehow it keeps finding you. Not because you chase attention, but because the energy you carry commands recognition. Even in silence, you're unmistakable. It's not charisma, it's not charm, it's the quiet force of alignment. And people feel it, even if they don't understand it. Lately, the atmosphere shifts before you speak. You enter a room and emotions rise, masks fall, tension surfaces. Why? Because presence like yours disrupts the lie of normalcy. People sense that you see too much, feel too deeply, know without proof. It makes them uneasy, not because you're a threat, but because you're a mirror. You reflect back everything they've avoided. Their doubt, their stagnation, their own forgotten fire. And that's not easy to carry, being the one who can't fake it. The one who notices what others pretend not to. The one who must keep walking when no one else sees the path. But you weren't made to be comfortable. You were made to be clear. You were made to walk in truth so boldly that falsehood can't stand next to you. Yes, it's isolating. Yes, it's heavy. But it's holy, because in a world built on performance, your authenticity is rebellion. Your stillness is resistance. Your clarity is liberation. Not just for you, but for others who silently watch you from the shadows. They may never say it out loud, but your courage is giving them permission to stop hiding, to shed the roles, to speak with their own voice, to finally remember who they are. So don't pull back now. Don't shrink to fit their comfort. Don't dim what took lifetimes to ignite. You weren't called to walk quietly through a broken system. You were chosen to shake it without saying a word. You don't need to start over. You need to step into what you've already become, into the energy you've been suppressing, into the truth that's been growing in silence beneath your skin. This isn't a moment of reinvention, it's recognition. You've already changed. The question is, are you ready to live like it? Too much time has been spent rehearsing who you thought you needed to be. Too much energy wasted shrinking in rooms your presence was meant to stretch. But now, the air around you feels different. Not because the world shifted, but because you did. The inner version of yourself finally outgrew the outer performance. It's uncomfortable, because power always is at first, especially when you've spent years hiding it beneath politeness, underachievement, or self-doubt. But what's emerging in you can't be tucked away anymore. Not because it's loud, but because it's true. And truth always finds a way to rise. This isn't about proving anything. You're past that. This is about embodiment, about letting your walk speak the words your soul has whispered for years. Some people won't recognize you anymore. Let them go. Some things won't feel worth your energy anymore. Let them fall. This is sacred subtraction, a divine pruning, not loss, precision. Every piece that leaves makes space for what fits. So don't rush to rebuild. Don't panic in the emptiness. Let the silence teach you what striving never could. What's meant for you isn't waiting, it's aligning, and it will meet you the moment you stop pretending you're not ready. You are. You've reached a point where pretending costs more than the truth. Not financially, not socially, but spiritually. Each time you silence your intuition to make others comfortable, you disconnect from the exact compass that was designed to lead you out of cycles, out of stagnation, out of inherited limitations dressed as tradition. And you feel it, don't you? The weight of staying small. The tension in your body when you say yes to what you've already outgrown. The quiet anger when you dim your insight just to maintain peace. But peace built on self-abandonment isn't peace. It's spiritual erosion. It's slow decay beneath a polished smile. You weren't made to be agreeable. You were made to be aligned. To speak when it's inconvenient. To move when it's misunderstood. To rise when no one claps. The cost of awakening is high. You lose comfort. You lose approval. You lose the illusion of belonging. But what you gain is unshakable. You start to see clearly. You start to feel truth as a vibration, not an opinion. You begin to walk through life like a tuning fork, disrupting what's false just by standing still. This kind of presence doesn't need strategy. It doesn't need validation. It doesn't seek stage or spotlight. It simply is. And is enough when you are finally whole. So stop negotiating with what you've already outgrown. Stop explaining your shift to minds committed to staying asleep. You were not made for compliance. You were made to awaken everything around you simply by being fully alive. And now, you are. You've been walking with a weight that was never yours to carry. Inherited expectations, unspoken obligations, roles handed to you by people who never asked who you truly are. At first, You wore them out of love, out of survival, out of the quiet belief that maybe if you played the part well enough, you'd finally feel complete. But completion doesn't come from performance. It comes from permission, the kind you finally give yourself when you realize no one else can. You're not here to fulfill someone else's version of your life. You're here to rewrite the pattern, to stop the repetition of unspoken pain passed down through generations, to become the one who ends cycles by refusing to continue them. That's why it's been heavy, not because you're weak, but because you're the first in the line to wake up, to feel it all, to question it all, to transform it all. Healing doesn't always look like light and calm. Sometimes it looks like breaking things no one else dared to touch. Sometimes it sounds like silence, not because there's nothing to say, but because what needs to be said can no longer be spoken in the old language. So now, your soul speaks in movement, in boundaries, in quiet exits and unapologetic entrances, in knowing when to walk away without anger and when to stay without fear. This is sacred rebellion. This is holy resistance, not to the world, but to everything that asked you to be less than whole. You're not becoming someone new. You're just finally safe enough to be who you are. You stopped chasing what was never meant to catch you, and in that quiet surrender, something powerful returned. Your energy. Not the kind that runs on adrenaline or validation, but the kind that roots itself in stillness and begins to expand from within. There was a time when proving your worth felt necessary, when overgiving was mistaken for love, when being chosen by others meant more than choosing yourself. But now, the mirror looks different, not because your face changed, but because your eyes see through everything. You see who's real before they speak. You feel the cracks in someone's truth before it breaks. You sense the expiration date on spaces you've long outlived. And that's not cynicism, it's clarity. When your spirit sharpens, the world appears for what it truly is. Noisy, distracting, temporary. But your presence, it's becoming a sanctuary, a place where illusion dissolves, a vibration that reminds others what peace feels like, even if they can't name it. Don't downplay that. Don't shrink for the sake of harmony, because harmony built on your silence isn't peace. It's performance. You no longer need to prove what is already evident in your being. Your boundaries speak now. Your decisions echo louder than explanations. Your absence from certain spaces is the answer and the protection. So let them misunderstand. Let them wonder why you're quiet, distant, focused. Let them fill in the blanks while you fill yourself with truth. Because what's forming now doesn't require permission. It only requires that you stay aligned and keep walking, even when no one claps, even when no one follows. Especially then, you felt it building, quietly, steadily, like a storm gathering just beneath your skin. Not a storm of chaos, but of becoming. A force that doesn't seek destruction, only the end of what no longer serves. This isn't a breakdown, it's the friction that comes right before your next form takes shape. You've been standing at the edge of something for a while now, not sure whether it's a beginning or an ending, because it's both. A closing of cycles you've outgrown, and the silent opening of doors you didn't even know existed. But thresholds require something from you. They don't open just because you're tired. They open when you're ready to release. Release the weight of who you were expected to be. Release the timelines you thought you had to follow. Release the belief that you still have to earn what's already yours. No one told you that power sometimes feels like grief. That letting go of the familiar, even when it limits you, still aches. But that ache is sacred. It's the sound of your old self cracking, making room for what's real. And what's real isn't loud. It doesn't need to be. It sits in your chest like a knowing. It walks with you like a shadow you no longer fear. It waits, not for applause, but for alignment. You don't need another sign. You don't need another voice telling you what you already feel. The shift isn't coming, it's here, and it's waiting on you to say yes, without needing to know the entire map. Because once you step through, you'll realize the map was inside you all along.